Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association YouTube channel, where we go over some of the news that we have found locally, provincially, and nationally through the news webs that's available to us. With me, as usual, we have Mr. Ian Graham joining us from Kitchener. How are you today, Ian?
Doing well, enjoying the sunshine. A little cold, but it's nice to see. The solar panels are loving it.
Exactly. Also joining us from Listowel, Mr. Eric Stevens joins us. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, Mark. I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent. So we get two guys that are happy that the sun is out because they're both collecting electrons on their roofs. Fantastic, fantastic. So they were telling me the amounts of electricity that they're collecting is making me jealous. But what can you do? It's good that someone's collecting it, and certainly it's good that more of us are collecting. So fantastic. If anyone out there has any questions about solar, these two would be happy to answer you, I'm sure. If you just put a question in the comments, they can respond back to you if you got any questions about solar, because these guys are experts. But with that, we're here to talk about some electrifying news that we've collected over the past month or 5 weeks, and since our last get-together, and we're going to get into that now. Ian's got a bit of a slide presentation that we'll go through, and with that, Ian, go ahead and share your screen with the audience.
All right, there we go. Fantastic. You guys are seeing that okay?
Yep.
Fantastic.
All right. Okay, so the first slide we're talking about is quite exciting, actually, for Ontario. This was an article in Sault Ste. Marie about massive growth projected for electric vehicles, and basically, Mark, I'll let you explain, but yeah, it comes down to the resources that Ontario has and our mining capabilities.
Exactly. Sault Ste. Marie, obviously, Northern Ontario being more of a mining type community. The call has gone out worldwide that more battery resources are required, and different jurisdictions that lend themselves to mining for nickel, particularly, are going to be seeing a boost in demand for the assets that they have underground. And Sault Ste. Marie is talking about what is on the table for Ontario. Northern Ontario, of course, having a number of mines. Actually, the most active mines in Canada are in Ontario. And this article goes through some of the benefits that Northern Ontario is going to see, that these different industries or different companies are looking for nickel and other metals that can be found in Ontario. So this is a great sign for Ontario. It's some of the different communities are going to benefit from it. Certainly the mining companies and employees that work for those, as well as Ontario starts to transition more to electric vehicles and continues to push that demand. So it's not just local demand, it's worldwide demand. But it's nice to see that at least here in Ontario, we're getting some of the benefit of some of the assets that we have are being purchased for the expansion of electric vehicles throughout the world.
Now in Sault Ste. Marie, it wasn't so much the mining aspect of them; it was more the processing of things. I think after the fact, they have the companies to, take what's been mined and work with it from that point.
Right.
Of course, yeah, and of course Sudbury is known as with nickel. And, because I go up there quite a bit for the summer, I have talked with people within the industry, and that is definitely for them, they say, is like high on their radar for electric vehicles. They're constantly approached by the manufacturers, let's put it that way.
Yeah, of course, Sudbury, the big nickel, certainly means they've got a lot of nickel. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. There's a number of different communities and mines that are already in operation that are certainly high on the list of these manufacturers contacting to
Yeah.
get some of these resources.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Yeah, definitely nickel, cobalt, lithium in Quebec as well too. So big resources there. On top of that too, there's a big push for making sure that you have sustainable and good business practices in your supply chains today, and having relatively clean power here in Canada, on top of good business practices and good labor standards. We're well positioned to make a strong pitch for that as well too going forward. That any company that does business in Canada can be rest assured that that's going to be considered a safe supply.
Mhm. One thing, Mark, I was going to mention is that this picture is actually from the news article, and I can't say that I've ever seen this type of system.
This is a Europe picture,
I
guaranteed.
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, if you look at the cable, the red one in particular, it's like both ends are J1772
Yeah,
ends. It looks like.
actually, in Europe, when it comes to level 2 charging, you're required to
Mhm.
have your own cable.
Yeah,
So
those,
they have no problems with cable stealing because most people have their own cable, and there's no damage performed to cables as they sit idly and not being used because the cable's typically in the trunk of the car.
mhm.
Cool, cool. That's awesome. All right, turn this over to Eric.
Yeah. So there's a recent announcement, actually. The federal government and the provincial government in Quebec have announced funding that's assisting the company Lion, which makes a wide range of commercial vehicles. That they're going to be building a battery assembly plant in Quebec. It's going to be targeting 5 gigawatt hours a year and being able to produce about 14,000 medium duty and heavy duty vehicles a year. On top of that, the Pride Group, which is another Canadian company, which we announced in our previous video as well too, which already has Cybertrucks on order, or not Cybertrucks, but the Tesla semis and the workhorse vans. They're also now going to be also purchasing a number of the Lion 6 and Lion 8 trucks from this company as well too, for use in logistics and also from leasing and renting as well too. So this company Pride is going to be moving into, sounds like, vehicle rentals and stuff as well, and leasing programs. So they're moving into quite the wide variety of, all the way from delivery vans all the way up to semi trucks and everything in between type logistics.
That's really cool. I like the look of the vehicles. It's definitely unique. The front, like with the school bus and the pedestrian bus, and well, even the transport there as well. But very interesting with the lighting, and I wonder sometimes the more these electric vehicle companies are really trying to distinguish themselves as away from anything traditional. I mean, Rivian's trucks are also very unique with their front, and it's cool. It's very futuristic looking.
Yeah, I certainly like that. This is going to be a Quebec operation. Another Canadian province getting involved in the electrification end of things is always a good thing for Canada as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Now, Eric, these trucks here, what range are they looking at with these type of trucks? Because it looks to me like they actually might go maybe a little further than, say, the standard delivery truck that we talked about in our last episode, which was, I think, what you mentioned about maybe was 150, 200 kilometers of range?
No, these ones will do, depending, there's different battery options you can get with these vehicles. But the top battery options will get these vehicles over 300 kilometers of typical range for their applications.
Right, right. So a little further than,
And
on
then
this
the
type of thing.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
further than the workhorse ones, which are about 150 to 200 kilometers range.
Mhm.
These
Yes.
ones now will actually do 300 plus.
So a bit of a regional truck as opposed to a local delivery truck.
Correct.
Mhm. Oh, that's
Very good.
awesome. Yeah. So, our last episode as well, we had talked about police vehicles and getting to be electrified. And anyways, in Massachusetts, Ipswich Police Department basically got nearly $15,000 in grant money, and basically purchased a Tesla Model Y. And the grant money was about $10,000 from the Ipswich Electric Light Department and $4,290 from the Green Community Program. So good for them. It's nice to see that they're they're getting a little bit of help with this, and I'm sure that they're going to see the benefits in terms of savings compared to their previous vehicles with this. I like also too the kind of the look of this vehicle as well, with the blue and red lights and along the bottom as well, and what they're doing. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, so the typical price of this car in the U.S. Without subsidies is $50,000. So that's a nice chunk of change off the top. Dropping it down to $35,000 US certainly makes it a lot more obtainable with comparing to a standard cruiser.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right. So this was an interesting article. It was CBC that had. This was. It wasn't CBC. It was a Peterborough article, and basically, kind of the discussion about whether electric vehicle rebates, if they actually increase sales. So, anyways, there's 2 slides for this. There's 8 main points on this. Mark, do you want to go through on each one of these?
Yeah, it's just it's basically outlining what makes vehicles sell, what makes electric vehicles sell, and it looks at the different provinces and what's going on. So, for example, here in the province of Ontario, we used to have a large rebate of $14,000. That was eliminated when the PC government came into place. And now Ontario residents only have the option of getting a $5,000 federal rebate on an electric vehicle of a certain amount. There's caps and stuff that's in place as well. But what they did is they took a look across the other provinces, and they noticed that provinces that have a provincial rebate plus the federal rebate, such places as British Columbia and Quebec, they now have the highest amount of EVs sold in Canada. Ontario quickly dropped from its pedestal of being number 1 down to number 3 underneath Quebec and British Columbia. So what Ontario has decided to do, as most of you know, is we're looking at investing in the companies that make, or investing in companies, asking them to push the EVs into Ontario for the money that they receive. So grants they receive are pushing EVs to, for example, Ford in Oakville. They are going to be producing electric vehicles with the grant money they've received from the provincial government. That's part of the deal that they've gotten for the grants of the millions of dollars they've received. So it's kind of a tale of 2 stories. Does giving grants to companies allow more EVs to be sold, or giving the grants to the individual people as rebates, does that sell more EVs? So in the case of Ontario, and of course the jury's a little bit out on the Ontario, because we've just started to get involved with Ford just in the past year, announcing these changes. And of course the lineup of EVs that are going to be made in Oakville has not even been announced specifically. So we don't know this for a fact yet, but we do know that taking away a rebate that people were receiving certainly dropped Ontario's status of selling EVs down into 3rd place from 1st. So it becomes a question of numbers. It becomes a question of what works best. And this article, we're not going to go through everything here, but you can read it with the links that we do provide in the notes. But this just kind of goes through what the different thoughts are and what the results are to this point in the game. Yeah,
I found it interesting, like the point number 6 about, Nissan in Peterborough was selling up to 5 EVs a week when there was a $14,000 rebate, and now they barely sell 1 a month. And, so you're talking like, basically 20 EVs a month now to one. So that's a real sign right there. And I think Ontario will also drop to number 4 because, as we pointed out in the last show, that Nova Scotia has now got rebates on top of the federal. So I could see Ontario, unless we kind of get our act in gear, we're not going to be, number 3 anymore either.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It becomes a question of money. How much money is being spent to give out rebates? How much money are we giving to the corporations to provide us with EVs? It's a different philosophy, obviously, that the PC government had over the previous Liberal government. So there's a difference of opinion, and we're living it out in real time. And I would say in another couple of years, we'll be able to judge it a little bit more accurately than what we can at the outset at this particular point, because of course, the Oakville hasn't started to produce EVs. It's not really showing, but I guess the question is, will EV prices go down in that time period? Will the production of EVs force the price to go down because of quantities that are being produced? Are they going to stay where they are, or are rebates the way that we push them into people's hands and kind of dangle a carrot in front of people to get them to switch? It's questionable as to what the right answer is now. Although looking at the data initially and being a consumer myself, I kind of like the old system that we had in Ontario. But that's just what I see from my personal viewpoint at this point in time.
I see these as achieving two completely different things. Incentives to have people produce vehicles in Ontario doesn't have much to do with actually selling more EVs in Ontario. It's more about this is the way the industry is moving, and we're trying to secure Ontario's position as one of the leaders in automobile manufacturing into the future. Versus a direct incentive is actually about selling more EVs into the province. So one is about preserving jobs in Ontario and preserving an industry going forward. The other one is actually about pushing consumers to purchase more vehicles. So they're two different goals that achieve two different things, and I think they're both important.
That's very true. Yeah, it's very true. And of course, like we talked about the fact that Ontario is such a going to be an aspect that is pretty major with the mining and needing the elements for electric vehicles. I think one's going to have to lead into the other, because we're going to have to basically inform the consumer more about why they need to buy an electric vehicle. But now, hey, we're also creating a lot more jobs in Ontario because of this. So the incentives all play a part of all this. And Eric's right. It's like one is kind of needed with the other. We need to look at all that. In fact, we could almost say there are 3 elements to this. There is the mining aspect and the industry that produce the parts, but then there's the actual assembly and manufacturing of the cars, and then the final piece of the puzzle, of course, is the consumer. And even for that matter, we could also bring in the 4th to say, like, well, what about the businesses? Because we have been talking also, we have that many more companies like Lion doing larger vehicles for delivery. And the last episode, we also talked about how many more vehicles. There was that group that had bought an X amount of trucks to do 150, 200 kilometer deliveries. So everything is fitting together as part of this big puzzle.
Yeah, it's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah,
and Ontario and Canada in general is well poised to have almost the full picture.
Yes. Yeah, which is great to see. It's exciting on that. Yeah. All right. Well, gonna turn this over to Eric. This is an article that I really enjoyed because one of the biggest, we see the arguments on all the commentary and the Facebook groups and that about, well, what do you do with the battery when it's done? And so this is an exciting article to see, as well as this past month, there is also a company that is now going to be traded on the stock exchange that does battery recycling as well. So, and the one thing with this article I really liked was the fact that they were saying they're able to recover up to 95% of the battery materials, and they can be used for new batteries on this. So, Eric?
Yeah. So yeah, basically, this story is Hyundai Canada has officially announced that they're working with a Quebec-based lithium-ion recycling company to recycle batteries into the future. And this is great. And as you mentioned, yeah, 95% of the materials can be recycled, and that's something you can't say with something like fossil fuels, where once it's burned, you can't really recover and reuse that in a energy efficient manner. Anyway, there's carbon recapture systems that can turn things back into fuel, but that's a hugely energy intensive process. While this you're actually reusing materials. You're not consuming the battery in this case. The battery can be remade in those materials recaptured to make more batteries again and make more electric vehicles into the future.
Mm-hmm. What I'm interested in knowing, kind of like, as the battery over time changes and I guess doesn't hold the state of charge, what is it that they're able to do to revitalize the battery?
Well, in this case, they're not really revitalizing. They're basically just reseparating the elements. So over time, what happens is in a battery cell, as they age, you get these growths on the anodes and cathodes, which can break down the capabilities of the cells and stuff like that. In this case, they're actually shredding and reseparating all the raw elements again, and then basically remanufacturing the cells again.
So if I'm correct, it's dendrites, right? That's
Yes.
what it's called?
Yeah,
Yes.
dendrites are one of the common ways, yes.
Yeah, it's not stalactites or stalagmites, it's dendrites.
Yeah. Similar idea, I guess, but
I think so, yeah. But yeah, so are the dendrites basically at this point then kind of removed and basically putting the stuff back together?
Yeah, it's basically shredding the batteries back down to and separating them down to their raw elements again, and then using that to remanufacture new batteries again. It's a reset button.
Yeah, like in my own kind of like reading, it's Dr. John Goodenough, who basically, I think with the lithium batteries, that was the one area that he was saying is probably the most difficult area is the dendrites, especially too because when they touch, they can create basically, am I correct, Eric, in saying an arc, where now you have the battery could cause the battery go on fire.
Yeah, well, that basically shorts a cell out. So if a dendrite grows to the point where it makes contact through your electrolyte to your anode to your cathode, you basically now shorted the cell, and the cell will overload at that point. So,
yeah.
Well, I certainly like what this article is saying with to be able to recover up to 95% of spent battery materials. I guess my question, it's not mentioned in the article, is what's typical? Obviously, looks like the ceiling is 95%, but is there a lower threshold that is the typical average? Like to see 95%. Everybody does like to see that in an article, but I'm wondering if that is, if that might be just a kind of a pie in the sky high amount that they can get to every once in a while, or if if maybe the average number is a little bit lower at 90% or 85%. Still a very, very good amount to be recycled. I've just never seen what the real number is or typically are. Maybe it's too early to tell, but certainly as more of this battery recycling happens, we hope to see some real numbers as these operations begin.
Yeah, I think the challenge with that kind of number is there's so many different kinds of chemistries out there today for batteries. And so I imagine that number varies slightly depending on the type of battery and the raw elements that are within it. So,
because we would certainly like to know that, if you have a pack from a certain manufacturer that, only 20% of it could be recycled. That would be good information to know. Not typically, for the headline here, but
Yeah.
we as consumers would like to know that, you know, certain cars are not up to the ability to be recycled or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the chemistry aspect, like you're right, if because we have different battery chemistries, and I'm sure that all has to play a part of the difficulty of separating everything. What works for one may not work necessarily as well for the other. Um, I
Right.
know, yeah, and in Europe, I think it was in Germany, there was a manufacturer that was actually shredding the battery, and then using magnets to separate all the components that way.
Mm-hmm.
That was another sort of recycling method. But yeah, different ways to get at this. And again, like Eric pointed out, it's not like gas, which we burn once, you know, and it's gone. This is really good to see that we are able to recycle this type of stuff. Cool. So just quick little thing on here. This is, again, a rumor, but basically that there's a possibility that the Cybertruck could begin production in June of this year. Now, I think from what they're saying, it's going to be a small, like they say, a small pilot production line at the company's Fremont, California factory. But, you know, Eric, you have a lot more experience with some of this as well. Basically, this is almost like, let's build a Cybertruck, let's put the line together and work the bugs out, right? Work the kinks out.
Yeah, I mean, usually at the state of the process, once you get a factory up and running, there's usually a pre-production process that has to go through and plus you have to hire workers and train them and then get them up to speed as well too. There's a whole, you're not just employing people, but you're also training and teaching robots, equipment, processes, even the supply chain and working out lead times and smoothing all that out. There's so many moving pieces to this, so many parts to getting an assembly plant up and running that usually this process takes several months to a year to fully play out in most circumstances.
Yeah, yeah. So I could definitely see, even though, you know, in many respects, when you look at the Cybertruck, it seems very plain to a certain point when you look at it, but there still is a lot of aspects to it to get it together. But yeah, we'll see what you know, what's going to happen possibly in June. And of course, the other thing is that for the Texas Austin plant, they're putting the call out for hiring there. In fact, Elon was just on this week as well with SpaceX, putting the call out for hiring there as well. So it's great to see, you know, the jobs are coming through that way. And of course, it hasn't happened as of yet, but Biden, with trying to get things going, I think we're going to be looking at a lot more possibility of jobs happening that way as well within the U.S. So to me, it's interesting that the U.S. is really getting back into the automotive game for all companies, whether it's Tesla, but I think with GM and Ford, and I think with Biden kind of taking the reins on this, I think he's really pushing hard to try and get the companies to get the jobs out there, and electrification as well.
Oh, definitely. Electrification has been talked up left and right with the Biden administration, not only with cars, but infrastructure as well. So there's many I guess, projects that they've got in line down to the point where they want government vehicles to be switched to be 100% electric. And they're looking for companies in the U.S. to be the ones that supply those vehicles. So they're not being biased. They're saying buy American, and they're pushing every country, every company to be able to supply these vehicles to them to make that federal fleet electric. And in fact, there's even recently the post office had selected a new vehicle for their future-looking mail truck, delivery truck, and there's calls that that decision may be reversed because only 20% of those vehicles were going to be electric. And with this new push by the Biden administration, there is talk that that contract may be reassigned once again so that they can get an all-electric vehicle in the mix, as opposed to just something that will do 20% on electric, or 20% of the vehicles being electric.
Yeah.
Was that the post office vehicle that had like the huge windshield?
By Oshkosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Oshkosh is a big defense contractor for the U.S. right now. So I imagine probably under their previous contract there were some political connections there that got them that contract.
I could see the windshield wiper bug spray washing companies making a killing off of that, because it just bugs here come, Yeah, but in terms of the government vehicles, it's over 600,000 that they're looking to electrify, which is really amazing. Yeah,
it's quite a fleet. Yeah,
and there's also a lot of economists are talking today. There's no doubt today that from a vehicle electrification standpoint, China has a big head start on most of the people in the world today, and so now a lot of people in the U.S. are sitting there going, well, we can't fall too far behind here. We have to make sure that they're making sure that the U.S. Plays catch up, and also hopefully plays a lead in electrification going forward into the future as well.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Yeah. All right. The weather is getting warmer, but Mark, you can tell us a little bit about the cold that's going on. I'm so happy to see. Well, you know what? I was going to say I'm so happy to see the cold go, but we're supposed to get to was it -14 tonight with the wind chill?
Yeah, but this is the last night, Ian. We're going to get better going forward. So this ties in with that as being the last hurrah for winter. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the Northern Ontario test facility that GM operates in Kapuskasing, Ontario. That's about 850 kilometers north of Toronto. And GM has, of course, operated this particular test facility now for, it's got to be since 1941.
Mm-hmm.
It's been in operation for that would put it like 65 years, or no, 75 years that it's been operating. What's interesting here is that this facility employs mostly Canadians from the local region and operates only in the winter. So this, of course, is a cold weather testing facility. And they regularly take all GM vehicles and, of course, ones that are under development and ones that they want to test as prototypes up to Kapuskasing at different points in their production to test it out in cold weather, cold Ontario weather, to see what these vehicles can handle. And they have a 3.6 kilometer test track where they have a smart camera system that follows the cars. They have a 13 car garage area, battery lab, a couple of cold weather test lines, and some additional, if Kapuskasing isn't cold enough for them, they have some additional cold boxes that they can put cars in and even cool it down beyond what it is outside. So get it down to like a minus 45 degrees Celsius and really test out the vehicles and see what they're made of. So this facility, it really only runs for about 3 months during the winter months. And then after that, once spring and summer arrive, they perform some, maintenance on the facility, make sure that the test track is leveled out and there's not any ruts or problems with it. And then it sits dormant until those 3 months in the dead of winter come up again. So kind of an interesting article. And at the end, they really talk a little bit about electric vehicles as it relates to this track. And that when they came out with the first few vehicles that they were working on and brought those EVs up to Kapuskasing, they found that they weren't performing all that well in the cold weather. But of course, as GM made modifications and changes to their battery development and system, and the Volt came out, of course, they were able to handle it better. But Kapuskasing was something that allowed them to see what coal did to EVs when it came down to it, and the differences between here and, say, a California winter, where it's dramatically different. If you're going to sell cars in Canada, you're going to have to be able to take those temperatures. And the Kapuskasing team is a group of individuals that allow GM to see what issues there can be, even when it comes to not just the car's ability and range hit, but easy common things like they find out that they're unable to open a door or flick a button on in the car because the drivers are wearing gloves or mitts, which of course most test drivers aren't doing that in southern states. Up here, mitts and gloves are a fact of life in winter, and you have to be able to operate the car safely. And that type of testing is interesting to see that they're actually doing that just to make sure that the car is well-rounded and can be sold in these colder markets. So kind of an interesting article. It's a brief read, but it was kind of interesting. So decided to include it this month.
Yeah, actually, about a month and a half ago, there were some spy photos of a couple Hummer EVs running up on Kapuskasing. So they've been testing. GM has some of its traction facilities in northern Michigan, but they do the really cold weather testing in Kapuskasing. And one of the nice things about Kapuskasing is its geographic location up on right in the Canadian Shield. It gets very cold temperatures in that area. It's equivalent to what you get in northern Alberta. But at the same time, it's, as you said, 850 kilometers just north of Toronto. So it's far enough north and in a geographic location where it gets very extreme cold weather. But at the same time, it's not terribly far away for people to transit to. And the facility is interesting. They don't have too many full-time employees that work at this facility. Most of the time, it's engineers that transplant from either their engineering facilities in Oshawa or even from their Milford or Warren Technical Center in the greater Detroit area that transplant up in the wintertime to this facility. There was actually a great video when they were developing the Gen 1 Volt. One of the videos was also done in Kapuskasing of their cold weather testing, which was
That's right. I remember watching that with it driving on the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's funny. And speaking about the Volt with the cold weather testing, I had gone with you, both of you, to the manufacturing plant, and that was my sort of first introduction to the Volt. And of course, 2 weeks later, I ended up buying the Volt, and I was not necessarily on the fence, but I went to Victoria Park to walk my dog, and there happened to be a black Volt there, and I waited till the people came back. And it turned out it was the father, it was his son's car, but his son had graduated from U of W, and the first job he got was with GM. And that was one of the things he had mentioned to me, that they did an extreme amount of cold weather testing. So it would have been, I'm sure, up in Kapuskasing that he was up there doing that. And you're talking, this would have been probably around, I would say, 2006, 7, maybe, that they were doing this, or is it 2008? I'm not sure my timeline, but it was right before the Volt actually had come out, and this gentleman's son had worked on the project, and he said it was one of the most fun things he had ever done. And then, funny enough, another friend of mine who I deal with in the music stuff that I do with my studio, his sister was also one of the people who tested the Volt, and I'm sure she also went to Kapuskasing. So I think it'd be a nice place to visit in the summer for myself. In the winter.
Yeah, I don't know when they said that they have the cold boxes because it may not just be cold enough. I thought, oh my gosh, how cold does it have to be? But obviously you have to test these vehicles in extreme conditions because those conditions do come up every once in a while. They may not be daily, but you'd like to know that your product can handle them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. Well, speaking of traveling 800 plus kilometers north of Toronto, Eric, you got some updates on chargers?
Yeah, it's a great segue, actually. So Ivy has been busy during the pandemic. they have been building a very large number of stations. Actually, as of a year ago, they had maybe about 6 sites open in Ontario. Now they've got probably I'm just looking at their map here quickly. They've probably got close to 30 sites now open in Ontario. And if you want to drive up to Kapuskasing, you can now today using the Ivy network. So especially in Northern Ontario, they've really filled in Northern Ontario up to Timmins and up to the Cap, and all the way out to Thunder Bay and Kenora. So they've really filled in a huge portion of Ontario, and even going down towards southwestern Ontario. They've got stations in London and Windsor now that are open, even out towards Owen Sound. So you can actually traverse the majority of Ontario today that's drivable anyway, using the Ivy network. And most of the stations they still have planned are mostly the urban ones that they haven't done yet. But most of their rural stations, the areas where they're really trying to fill a lot of the gaps in the networks that have existed in Ontario, they've now plugged most of those gaps today.
Well, that's certainly good to know that they've spent their time doing places that are currently a gap right now, as opposed to a lot of the urban centers that have a few different choices. It's great to see that they're working on the holes in Ontario first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Ivy's basically is both CCS and CHAdeMO, or is it?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so their sites are CCS and CHAdeMO. Each one of their sites are a minimum of 2 chargers. Some of them are 3 or even 4 chargers. Their minimum of most of the remote ones are 250 kilowatt stations, but some of them have now 100 or even 150, and I think they're planning to put some 200 kilowatt stations in a few spots as well too. So.
Nice.
And they're a
Just
partnership.
Yeah. So
who are they a partnership with, Eric?
Hydro One and Ontario Power Generation.
Now, in terms of price-wise, are they? What's kind of their average price that they're at?
So their 50 kilowatt stations are priced at, I think it was $18 an hour, if I recall.
Okay.
And they're if you go faster than that to their 100 kilowatt stations, they're like $40-something an hour. So if you pull up to one of the stations and you're not using the full speed, you want to make sure you plug into the right speed, because the chargers charge you based on the capability of the station.
Right.
Not the car. Okay.
That's correct.
Right. Something to keep in mind, that's for sure. Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. I'm sure, and it's it's great to see that Northern Ontario. I know that is an area that a lot of people. I see that on the forums, people talking about. I can't do an electric car because the chargers just aren't there. But now, with Ivy filling this in, Alberta, of course, Alberta, Saskatchewan are other areas where I see commentary about. We just don't have the stations, and we're traveling 300-400 miles. So we need something filled in there. So it's great to see that, this is all happening. As we mentioned in the last podcast as well, that with the pandemic, there was quite an increase in charging stations across Canada. So this is only going to grow that much more. Excellent. So to top things off for tonight, again, because the summer is coming, and even though I do show a snowmobile here, this company, which I think all of us recognize, SeaDoo, very common with the jet skis and some of their power boats and that. Anyways, these guys are going full on in with electric vehicles, and especially to launch electric versions by 2026. I really like this comment from their vice president, Bernard Guy, saying, "We always said it was not a matter of if electrification would happen, but when, and the when is starting now." It's a really cool kind of, if you remember, I think it's the Spider series of bikes.
Yep.
But you can see in the third slide over from the left, kind of a really cool, I think it's a concept bike more or less. And then beside that is kind of like a go-kart.
Yes.
That one I haven't quite figured out yet, if that's supposed to be like bumper carts at high speed, or what we're going to be having there.
Yeah.
But anyways, great to see.
Yeah, that third vehicle from the bottom there is actually what's called the Can-Am Ryker. And they actually do make a gas-powered version of that today. But the vehicle they're showing there was a concept of their electric version of the Ryker, which is sort of a smaller, more affordable version of the Spider.
Mm. Yeah. A friend of mine drives a Spider, and she loves it.
Mm-hmm.
It is an interesting vehicle, that's for sure. One other thing, just kind of to make mention of as well, is just in regards to the snowmobile and the jet skis, is the company out of Quebec, and it's slipping my mind now. This is awful, but they are manufacturing the same thing, snowmobiles and jet skis. I actually went on a demo last summer with them. I think it's Taiga, Taiga.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And anyways, they just got a huge investment for their manufacturing to get things going. And I think this summer, actually, if you did a deposit on their jet ski, I think they were supposed to do delivery for the summer. The jet ski is not cheap. It's about 15,000 US. But then when I did check it compared to a gas jet ski, it actually wasn't that far off.
Mm-hmm.
And man, did they go.
Yes.
Like it was scary. Like when I went out on it, and there was of course a guy following me, spotting me, and everything else, and we got to a certain section of open water. He's like, "Yeah, just let it go," and it's like, wow. If I wasn't holding on, it'd be gone without me. It was
Yep.
a lot of fun.
They
Yeah,
make some very capable machines. Yeah.
yeah. So, all right. So that's the slides that we have for tonight.
Yeah, and I understand, Ian, that you may have an update for us about a little side project that you've been working on over the winter.
Yes. So, as I've mentioned in the previous podcasts, in January, I did purchase a 21-foot pontoon boat, and that should be coming out of storage next week. I'm going to be taking it over to a friend's place to work on it. Anyways, I've been building the battery boxes for the 4 Tesla battery modules. So each box is going to hold 2 modules. That's coming together nicely. I think the weight of the batteries with 2 Tesla battery modules is about 110 to 120 pounds per box. So it's going to need some good handles and probably a couple of guys to take those in and out.
Yeah, you're not going to lift those boxes on yourself, are you?
No, definitely not. Not unless I'm, planning for much earlier retirement. No, so the battery boxes are being built. I picked up the bifacial solar panels this past week in Barrie, 440 watt bifacial. The price, crazy, $305 each.
Wow.
440 watt panels. It's
Wow.
like the price of panels is just gone down so much.
Yeah, that's less than 70 cents a watt. Yeah.
Yeah. So got that. We got the extruded aluminum to build the racking. We've been working on that. And as of yesterday, the company Elco, and for those of you who are interested, if you do want to outfit your gas boat with a electric propelled motor, Elco is doing it was supposed to be the whole month of April for Earth Day is basically $200 off of their motors, and so I'm doing the 20 horsepower motor, and we'll be ordering that next week. And give them a shout. I've been dealing with this great guy named Brandon, and they've been doing electric boat motors for like 100 years, and so I'm really looking forward to this. So the components are coming together for the project really nice. We got to get the parts put together. And then, you know what? I think we're going to have to do a test run either on Conestoga Lake or Bellwood Lake. One of those, we're going to take it out and see how it works before we actually drive it 6 hours north to my cabin up there.
So how many battery boxes are you going to have on this boat?
2 battery boxes with
2 battery
Tesla
boxes. Okay, and they each weigh about 120 pounds a piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
we
do
did
you
some
have to be careful about the placement on the boat with
Well, we
those such weights, or is like both ends? Is it in the middle? How do you set those up?
Well, the motor that's coming off it is 305 pounds. So
Ah,
it was a 75 horsepower Mercury.
Hmm.
So it basically the electric motor is 90 pounds. And then there's like an L seat for the back part of the boat. So two of the modules in the one box will go in the very middle, and then to the side will be the other box. And then of course we have the charge controller, and then the final piece of the component. I'm still working on, but I've been working with a company called Volts out of, I think it's Volts Energies out of Quebec. And basically, yeah, looking at the BMS system to basically controls how the Tesla battery modules are charged by the solar and make sure that all the cells are properly balanced. So it's been an interesting, fun project, that's for sure.
Awesome.
we
Yeah.
definitely look forward to the launch this, what do you think, summer?
Oh, I'm hoping by May.
May. Okay. We
So,
will
Hoping
so
by May.
definitely have to get some photos and commemorate the occasion as the boat takes to the water for the first time.
We should have a contest of what to name the boat. I was suggesting Princess 2. So then you can say, well, you don't want to ask what happened to Princess 1.
Solar McSolar face.
There you go.
So, yeah. Oh man, yeah. Instead of Bodie McBoat face, Solar McBodie boat solar face. I don't know.
So you could give your comments to Ian as to what to name his boat down in the comment section. I'm sure he'll look them over and we'll have a good laugh. So
Oh, for
send us
sure.
what you think the boat should be called.
Right
Very
on.
good. And with that, we'll do our shout outs this evening. Eric, any shout outs for you? Any projects you're working on? How's that table going?
It hasn't been moving too much. I've got most of the parts for it, but spare time has been a premium for me the last little bit. But my new patio is going in July, so I have some encouragement to make sure I get it done for that period of time. So
Very good.
I'm working towards that.
Very
That's
good. Very good. And
looking
Ian,
forward.
any shout outs from you this evening?
No, I think the only real shout outs is to say, like, just after what we're seeing, the last episode and tonight's episode, I think the shout out should go to, we're seeing movement within the industry. This isn't just about, golf carts anymore. We're now getting some pretty serious stuff going on within the trucking industry, and even for that matter with law enforcement. Everything, it's shifting. It's great to see. So I think the shout outs go to those who are making this happen and proving that we can do this. So this is great to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're with us still at this point, please give us a thumbs up on the video. That helps get this video in the front of other people's eyes. As well, please press the subscribe button and you will be notified every time that the Waterloo Region EVA puts up a new video. You'll be notified first. So do that and help us out, and that would be very much appreciated. We thank you all for watching, and we will put together another video in about a month or so. And if you have any comments or want us to cover certain things, please put it down in the notes and we'll take a look through that as we receive them. And we thank you very much for watching. Please be safe out there. We're all getting closer to a good outcome, it looks like, with this COVID thing, and we just need to hang in there a little bit longer with the troubles that we've been in. But I think there's definitely light at the end of this tunnel, and it's approaching quickly. So I hope you and your families are safe and happy, and we look forward to speaking with you next time. So thanks very much, everyone. Have yourselves a great morning, evening, afternoon, or whenever you're watching this.
Sounds
Bye-bye.
good. Have a good night.